What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today, we're going to be going through my top 10 positional rankings for the 2026 NFL Draft. Now, this is the second installment of a three-parter that I usually do with these type of rankings. So I usually do one in the middle of the college football season. I do one towards the end, and honestly, I think we've seen everything that we need to see from a lot of these players at this point. I don't really know how much in-game film is going to change the way that I feel about a lot of these players. And then I usually do one about a month before the actual NFL draft when the pre-draft cycle is sort of wrapped up. So this is the second part at the end of the college football season or close enough. But yeah, this should be a good one. It's fairly straightforward. The way that we go through this is we don't sit here and we don't talk about every single prospect that's on the list. We just highlight a couple names, maybe a couple surprises in each group, and then we'll talk about it. And if you guys have any questions or you want me to discuss further of anyone and why I have them ranked where I have them, of course, you could comment and I'd be happy to answer like I answer every single comment all the time. And then also the way that these positions are ranked themselves is I'm going by worst in the class to best. So, whichever one you see, they're a little out of order. It's not like offensive tackle, offensive guard, center, wide receiver. It's kind of all over the place, and that's because that's how I'm ranking the actual class itself. And before we get into this video, if you guys enjoy stuff like this, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I upload videos every day at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and around this time of the year, you definitely don't want to miss. I got a lot of great stuff coming out in the next couple weeks or so. So let's get into it here. First group that I have is the centers. I really think that you're looking at three potential starting centers right away in this entire class, and that's really your top three. That's Connor Lew, who from the first ranking, I think I had Connor Lew at number three, and the only reason why is because of the ACL tear. But then again, you think about it, Slaughter is a player that I think is very good, but I also think is a little limited at the NFL level, a little stiff, a little high in his pad play. And Logan Jones is also someone that's going to be closer to the age of 25 by the time the NFL season rolls around. So Lou, even off of the ACL tear, there's still plenty of time before the start of his rookie season where I think that he will be good to go and good as new. Sam Hecht makes a slight bump up. He's a player that I really, really like. I don't think he's the best pass blocker on earth, but he's a really, really good run blocker. Very, very athletic. James Brockermeyer makes a list here. If you really just kind of go through the metrics of all the Miami Hurricanes offensive linemen, you can make a case for really all of them to get drafted. That is just such a good team. And I know that we're seeing it now that, they are in the semifinal of the college football playoffs, but I think we kind of underestimated how good of a team that is in total. Parker Brailsford makes a slight drop down. I'm just not in love with his frame, 6'3", 285 pounds. I mean, he's in fantastic physical shape. That's not the issue. It's just I don't really know at the next level he's going to get bullied by bigger, stronger defensive tackles. So I think overall this center class just kind of really lacks that juice that I was looking for. The overall power. These are more finesse centers in my opinion. Guys like Jones, Connor Lew, Heck, Parker Brailsford. These are not power centers. These are not like mauling centers. These are more of your finesse, your athletic guys, and that's kind of where this position is kind of sort of evolving into, I would say. But at the end of the day, I just don't think there's a lot of starting caliber players in this center class. Moving on, we have the quarterbacks. And again, you could sit here and argue with me until you're blue in the face about numbers 4 through 10. But I ask you this one question. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? Because we know that there are two first-round talents, and then Ty Simpson is kind of sort of a toss-up. And then everyone else is pretty much I don't think there's anyone that could take a franchise to the next level. Ty Simpson is a player. This is the way that I have it categorized. Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore are day one starters. Fernando Mendoza is your safest floor and someone that's probably going to give you the best results right away. Dante Moore has a higher floor, but it's going to need a little bit of time to develop and get acclimated to the NFL game. Where Ty Simpson, to me, is just kind of sort of a complete project at this point. He has all the tools, but he's got to put it together. He needs more experience. Cole Payton is a really fun project. Carson Beck is a player that I think, I mean, admittedly, I probably should have Carson Beck over Cole Payton. I just love Cole Payton's physical intangibles. I think that he is just really fun to watch. The throwing mechanics are kind of wonky, but he's a really, really fun player. I think he's more of a quarterback version of Taysom Hill, if that makes sense. And honestly, if you can get someone like that in the fourth or the fifth round, that's a really useful weapon there. Beck probably should be a little higher, admittedly. Cade Klubnik is a player that I think, honestly, just kind of got shafted by the fact that Clemson had a really bad year. I think he's a pretty solid player. Drew Aller, again, is a player that has all the tools in the world. He just can't put it together. Sawyer Robertson is a gunslinger, but that's really about it. I do like Sawyer Robertson a lot. I think he actually has a lot of arm talent, and he's very accurate, and he throws a really good ball. Trinidad Chambliss is a player that I like a lot, and I kind of hope he goes back to school for one more year because I feel like one more year of FBS starting experience would bode very well for his draft stock. And then, of course, you have Garrett Nussmeier, who had one of the biggest plunges in recent NFL draft memory in terms of overall draft stock. So really, it's 1, 2, 3, and then the rest for this quarterback class. The only reason why I have the quarterbacks over the centers is just because at least you have some excitement with the centers. I kind of almost struggled to get 10 guys on a list. So yeah, this is this is one of the weaker draft classes in recent memory. It's kind of up there with 2021, 2013 as some really, really poor draft class for like top end talent from the quarterback position. That's not to say that these guys can't become something. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in terms of overall hype and ability and intangibles, I think this is on the lower end of the spectrum. Then I have the offensive guard because really there are two guys that I think are unbelievable players, and that's Olo Awane and Emmanuel Prignon. I think they are both instant plug and play impact starters at the NFL level. And then I have Keelan Rutledge at number 3, who I think is an awesome player. And he's going to be someone that gets drafted in, the middle rounds. And he's someone that you're going to plug and play in your offensive line for the next like 5 to 7 years and be like, wow, that guy's really solid. He might not make any Pro Bowls, maybe one, maybe two, but he's a player that you go, damn, that was a worthwhile draft pick. That guy's pretty dang good. Cade Piper is another player. Chase Basantis. These are players that I think will be fine at the NFL level. Same thing with Jaden Roberts. DJ Campbell's a hell of a run blocker. It really, that's what it comes down to. I think that there's a lot of guys that you could probably throw in there and they'll be solid. But outside of the top two, that's really it. Awane is a player that I think at the left guard position is going to be, a set it and forget it type of player. Just someone that will be in and out of the Pro Bowl selection. He really reminds you a lot of not Tyler Booker, Tyler Smith, excuse me. Just kind of, the Cowboys drafted him, and he's just been doing his thing since he's been drafted. What do you make? 2 or 3 Pro Bowls since he's been drafted. That's what I think Awane is going to be. Pregnon is more of the finesse out of the two, where Awane is more of that big, thick, mauler type of guy. Pregnon is someone that's going to get out to the second, the third level. He's going to, just be extremely athletic and really, really talented. And the rest are good guys. They're good players. But I just don't think that this is a star power level position for the draft class itself. Moving on to the tight ends, kind of the same thing here. I think there's a lot of there's 2 guys or really 3 guys that I think are going to be really fine at the NFL level. I think Sadiq is going to be a star. I think as long as he falls into an offense that kind of plays to his strengths, where even though he is a good blocker, I would just want to get him out there as like a big slot, as like a Harold Fannin Jr. I think Harold Fannin Jr. kind of broke the mold. We're looking at a new type of tight end in the NFL. You might see a lot of 2 tight end sets in the NFL where you have one playing on the end of the in line, and you have another one in the slot as like a big slot type of player. And I think Sadiq is someone that you can kind of throw all around. He's a good run blocker, good pass blocker, but his athleticism and his talents lie in the ability to run routes and catch the football. Max Clare is probably the best blocking tight end in this draft class. He's another player that I think I kind of was a little underwhelmed with his season going to Ohio State, but he's still a really, really good player. And his tape is, I call it boring tape. When you look at a player and you're like, all right, great play. All right, great play. Like there was nothing like, oh, that's a weakness. Max Clare is just one of those guys who's going to be like just a very solid tight end overall. Same thing with Eli Stowers and Jack Endries. I think Stowers is going to be kind of more of that big slot like Kenyon Sadiq. Trigg, Jolly, Koziel, Royer, Jones. Those are all guys that I think are going to play big slot. And then you have Miles Gesellman, who's going to be your more traditional tight end. He's more of a blocker than anything, but he's super athletic and he's super powerful. But yeah, I just think that this is a solid 10. This isn't like a blow your balls off type of 10, in terms of position. I do think there is a superstar in there in Kenyon Sadiq. And then Claire is going to be someone that I think is going to be pretty good at the next level. Moving on, I have the offensive tackle list. And this is this was one of the lists that I had from the middle of the season to now that kind of jostled around the most. At the top, it's interesting. I don't really think there's a blow away offensive tackle number one in the class. I think you can make a case for the top three guys. And then after that, it's a lot of really good players. Fano, I think, is going to be so this is what it is. This offensive tackle class, I think, gets a little bit of crap because it's predominantly right tackle heavy. Like you're looking at a lot of right tackles at the NFL level. Fano is going to be a right tackle. Mawagoa is going to be someone that's probably going to reduce inside or start his career at right tackle. Proctor and Gooseby are going to be left tackles at the NFL level. I don't really know where Caleb Lomu goes. He's super athletic, but a little light in the bridges. I think a move to right tackle would be, or inside, would make a lot of sense. Caleb Tiernan is 6'7", 325 pounds, but a lot of people think that he would be a better guard at the NFL level, but he is a left tackle. Blake Miller's a right tackle. Maxie Atcher is someone that has versatility on either side. Gennings Dunker is someone that's a right tackle who can reduce inside as well. And Isaiah World has, left tackle, right tackle potential as well. So I think that's why this class gets a little crap. I think these players are really good. And I think you have a plug and play starter in a lot of them. I'm particularly high on Blake Miller. I think he's a extremely solid NFL caliber right tackle. Someone again that you're going to plug and play and be like, wow, I'm so glad we made that draft pick in like round 2. This guy is great. Gooseby is a little bit more of a developmental player, but he has shown some really, really great tape this year at Texas. That's why I have him so high. Proctor is someone that really built his draft stock up this year. He was more of that Evan Neal type of player where you were like, all right, well, he's got the size. Can he, develop? And he really developed very nicely this season. Mawagoa, like I said, is just such a great player, and so is Fano. But yeah, I think that's the only reason why this class gets a little bit of hate. It's because it's more right tackle dominant than the left side. But you got great players on either side. Moving on, I have the running backs here. And this is another one that I kind of have all over the place. There was a lot of movement. Obviously, there's no movement at the top spot. Jeremiah Love is an exceptional talent. And I'm going to go out there and say it. And I've been wanting to say this on a recorded video for a while. I think Jeremiah Love is better than Ashton Genty. I don't know if that's like a hot take, but I think that Love is going to come in. And granted, I know, that was a crappy situation for Genty to fall into, and he's had a very nice rookie year for what he's had to deal with, to be honest with you. But I think Love is just a horse, man. I think this guy is going to really light the world on fire at the NFL level as soon as he hits the ground running, no pun intended. Katron Allen is a player that, despite the fact he has a ton of touches under his belt at the collegiate level, I think is extremely explosive and a true 3-down back. Jonah Coleman is a player that I think there was a lot of draft fatigue about Jonah Coleman, where he had a lot of fans early on in the draft cycle. And then he kind of cooled off as the season went on. But another player that I think has 3-down potential. Emmett Johnson, somewhere that kind of came out of nowhere, but he has plenty of juice. And he was really exciting to watch this year. Jadarian Price is a player, again, from Notre Dame that I think is just a really great player. I was kind of hoping Jadarian Price would stick back and play and have a full season as the starter once Jeremiah Love got drafted. But hey, that's great too. He's probably going to wind up being a day 2 pick. LJ Martin is super solid, 6'2", 220 pounds. He's a beast. Damon Claiborne is a player that has very quietly been one of the ACC's best running backs over the last couple of years. Justice Haynes is awesome. Nicholas Singleton's a player that I'm super low on for the most part, but I do see some NFL redeeming qualities. And Mike Washington Jr. is a player that had a very solid season for Arkansas this year. And he's a player that just went over 1,000 yards for the season, 6'2", 210, 215 pounds. He's got a load on him, pause. But yeah, he's a super solid runner too. Great vision, really nice lateral agility for someone his size. And he's someone that I think is going to be a very impressive running back at the next level as a day 3 pick. But I mean, there's a ton of talent here. Not outside of Love, I don't really think any of these guys are true bell cows that are going to play every single down at the NFL level. I think long gone are the days where you see a true, bell cow outside of the Derrick Henrys and the Christian McCaffreys. I don't really know if we're going to see more, two, three-headed monsters in the NFL backfields, but I think Jeremiah Love is someone that you could easily give 20 to 30 touches to a game, and he'll make the absolute most out of it. Moving on to defensive tackle, and I do like this class quite a bit. It grew on me for a while. I was very underwhelmed. I love when I'm scouting or when I'm looking at tape, I'm an up the middle type of guy. I love guards, I love centers, I love defensive tackles, I love linebackers, and I love safeties. Those are my 4 or 5 areas that I really hone into. I really love, you know, scouting up the middle. I think those guys are so underappreciated at the NFL level, especially safeties and offensive guards, that I feel like I got to show them love whenever I can. And this class, I was very cold on this class at the halfway point of the college football season. But now, after watching some more film, these guys definitely grew on me. Peter Woods, obviously, I think he's going to be a stud. He's a player that some people say he has low effort on plays. I disagree. I do think that maybe against like double teams, he kind of takes the play off, but I mean, listen, if I was an athlete and I was getting double teamed by 2 guys, wow, pause. That was, 6'7", 330 pounds on the offensive line. Yeah, I don't really think I'm getting by. I might take this play off. But Woods is exceptional. He's incredibly disruptive as a pass rusher. Really, really excellent as a run defender as well. Amari Washington is a player that built his stock up like no one else in this draft class. He's another one that I think is exceptional against the run, incredibly disruptive, and a load to handle. Caden McDonald is a player that I'm very intrigued by because he only has 1 year of true elite production, but he's so disruptive too. 6'3", 330 pounds. He's someone that's probably going to play nose at the NFL level. He's really disruptive, and you didn't see that from last year or the year prior. But this year, something kind of unlocked in him. Could it be because the Ohio State defense had a lot of good players around them? It could be, but he has some impressive tape in his own right this season. Christian Miller is more of your traditional 3-tech, 6'4", 315 pounds, extremely solid against the run. He's put in 3 back-to-back-to-back really, really consistent, solid seasons for the Georgia Bulldogs. I think he's a player that doesn't get enough love. Caleb Banks is, admittedly, I'm a touch lower on him than the consensus because he has, a little injury history, and he's going to be closer to 25 by the time the NFL season rolls around. But he's another really just 6'6", 330-pound disruptive monster. Lee Hunter, Grayson Halton, these are guys that definitely have been risers over the course of the season. Same thing with Darrell Jackson Jr., really excellent against the run. Dominique Orange and Dante Corleone are 2 players that I've kind of cooled off on. Dominique Orange just has some unbelievable play strength, though. I think he immediately walks onto the field, and he becomes the strongest player on the field. And Corleone is someone that probably should have declared for the 2025 NFL draft, because I feel like he kind of hurt his draft stock a little bit. As someone that I viewed last year as a potential fringe first round talent, now is probably looking at being a very solid day 3 player. But yeah, I think this class is really good. I think you have a lot of players, even down the board, even past this top 10 that I have. There are a ton of nose tackle archetype players that are really just going to, this is the year of the run stuffer. If you need a nose tackle, this is the draft class to get it. But in terms of overall defensive tackles, I think Peter Woods, Amari Washington, those are guys, and Christian Miller, those are going to be your guys that are going to be disruptive on every single down. Grayson Halton is a player that continues to rise up my board as someone that's incredibly disruptive as a pass rusher and has gotten way better as a run defender as the season has gone on. That was my biggest gripe with him, and he has been really, really good all season. Moving on to the wide receivers. Now, the receivers, really, really good. I don't know if there's anyone truly elite or exceptional. I think Carnell Tate is awesome. I really do. Despite, the poor showing against Miami, Carnell Tate is easily my wide receiver 1. I think that the jump from 2024 to 2025 in terms of his development and his production has been unbelievable. He went from having his route running be in question to being one of the best route runners in college football in 1 year. Excellent hands as well, just knows how to sit in the soft spot of a defense. Is he a true wide receiver 1 at the NFL level? That might be tough to say. I think he's a better complementary receiver, but I think he's more than capable of being that guy if he's thrown into a situation like that. Jordan Tyson, this is a 1A, 1B scenario for me between the two. I think it's really a 1A, 1B, 1C, if we're being completely honest with you. because I think Makai Lemon is so freaking awesome as well. But we'll go one by one. Carnell Tate, like I said, big body on the boundary, route technician, someone that's just going to be open and on all three levels. Tyson has a little bit more explosiveness than Tate, but he does come with a little bit of an injury history, and that's why I bump him down one spot. And then Makai Lemon is awesome, even as a 5'10", 190-pound receiver. He has one of the highest contested catch rates for a predominantly slot wide receiver. I think he's going to be he's going to throw juice into any offense that he runs into at the NFL level. Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, these guys are awesome in their own right too. And then after the top five, you kind of have a jumbled mix together where I feel like you could kind of rank these guys in any way, and I wouldn't bat an eye. Jeremy Bernard, I think, is going to be an exceptional wide receiver too at the NFL level. Same thing with Elijah Surratt and even Omar Cooper are players that I think are going to be extraordinary complementary receivers at the NFL level. Chris Bell is a player that unfortunately tore his ACL. That's why I moved him down. And because of how late he tore his ACL, I think he honestly might slide to late day two, early day three, just because of it. Because he was 6'2", 227 pounds, and as explosive as he was, that was a player that I was salivating for at the back end of the first round. But now, unfortunately, you have to see how he comes back from the injury. How explosive is he going to be? There's going to be a lot of tests done on him, if he's up for it in the pre-draft process. And then Skylar Bell is someone that, over the last couple of years has very quietly put in, over 2,000 receiving yards and over 20 touchdowns the last couple of years. He's been exceptional as well. More of a gadgety type of receiver as I believe out of the 102 catches he had, I think 38 of them were on screen passes, which is kind of a bonkers statistic. But he's someone that really can make things happen after the catch. This is a really solid group. I don't know if there's anyone that walks in and is immediately like kind of the same thing as this past year, where Tet was kind of really your wide receiver one, and then everyone else was kind of a complimentary receiver. It feels like the 2025 and the 2026 draft class are kind of shockingly similar in that way, but I think you're going to get way more production out of these guys than you got in 2025. Moving on, we have the corners, and man, am I a big fan of these corners here. Mansour Delaney, I think, far and away is the runaway cornerback one in this class. Just anywhere you put him. I mean, the jump from Virginia Tech to LSU, it's a huge jump in competition, and he basically shut down one side of the field for the LSU Tigers. In a season that was really dark for the LSU Tigers, Mansour Delaney was really the only bright spot for this defense. He was an unbelievable player in press man, in zone, incredibly instinctive, sticky, very technical, doesn't really get caught with his hands around the body of the receiver. Just an exceptional player. Avion Terrell is another player that in the midst of a poor season for his team had a great season. He's got that inside-outside versatility that I love so much. Colton Hood is a really strong player on the boundary, extremely heady, has an incredible football IQ, and shuts down in man and in zone. Keith Abney the second is a player that has really grown on me a lot as one of the top guys in this entire class. Abney is someone that I think if he goes into a defense that has a cornerback one already, he's going to be a shutdown wide receiver too. Like you're talking about Abney Island on one side of the field. Only a 44% completion percentage against this past year. Just an exceptional season for Arizona State. Jamal McCoy only falls down my board a bit, only because of the fact that he didn't play a snap this year. But I think if he comes back healthy and he tests well at the in the pre-draft process, and he has full range of motion, I think you're looking at a top 5 player in the entire class. So if someone is willing to take that chance on him and he comes through and delivers, that GM is going to make a lot of money. Brendan Cisse is a really good player as well, really strong against the run. Julian Neal, probably one of my favorite prototype bodies in this class, 6'2", 208 pounds, really good against the run, very, very aggressive at the line of scrimmage. Davis Enigbenosin is a player that I've been high on all season. So if you guys are fans of the channel, you know that. Really great season for him. Really nice size speed combination. Chris Johnson is a player that I think is probably going to wind up moving back to safety at the NFL level due to the slight lack of speed, where he's probably going to be in the higher 4-5 range. Excuse me. Yeah, if he was in the 5 range, he would be shoveling French fries into a carton at McDonald's. He wouldn't be playing safety in the NFL. But yeah, Chris Johnson is a player that I absolutely love, and he was really the catalyst for why the San Diego State Aztecs were as good as they were. Really, really smart player. The processing skills are unbelievable. What he what he lacks in speed, he makes up for basically everywhere else and baiting quarterbacks into making ill-advised throws. And then Keontae Scott is just really, really good. I mean, it was really tough to put those last three spots. It was really tough. This is a very good cornerback class. And Keontae Scott is a player that I think after a really bad year last year for him grade-wise, he's been exceptional this year. He really has been. And I Miami is obviously benefiting off of all these players being as good as they are, but yeah, Keontae Scott is having a really nice bounce back season. Again, another guy who has great boundary size at 6'1", 190 pounds as well. So this corner class, you have a lot of superstars in here. I think you could easily have everyone on this make a Pro Bowl at one point in their career. I'm confident in saying that. And then we have the safeties here. So a little bit of a switch up here. Caleb Downs obviously remains at number one. Emmanuel McNeil Warren moves up from, I think I had him at 7 to number 2. Yeah, he's a beast. AJ Halsey is a really great player. Dylan Thieneman, of course, really great. Rounding out my top 5, I have Jalen Husky, who I do believe is a top 50 player in this class. Guy is unbelievable. Jalen Kilgore, I put at the safety position. I didn't really know where exactly I wanted him to fit, but I think at the NFL level, his best fit is probably at the safety position. He's a stud as well. Kamari Ramsey's a beast. Michael Taft, a lot of people might think is a little bit, undersold here in this list, but that's not me hating on him. I just think that these guys are a little bit better. Zakee Wheatley is an insane player as well, and Genesis Smith has, what a season he had for the Arizona Wildcats. I mean, 5 interceptions. What did he have? Like a 20% pass breakup percentage. It was something crazy like that. Yeah, this is a dog of a safety class. Caleb Downs, of course, is going to be your outlier. He potentially is the best player in the entire class. Emmanuel McNeil Warren is a player that's probably going to be put everywhere on a defense at the NFL level. You're looking at someone that he can play single high, he can play in the box. Toledo has very quietly produced a nice amount of talent the last couple of years on the defensive side. You think of last year it was Darius Alexander, who's on the Giants now. Of course, before that it was Super Bowl champion Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, they have produced, for a MAC school, they have produced quite a bit of defensive talent on that side of the ball. Halsey is a player that's really talented as well, and him and Mansour Delaney really fed off each other in terms of overall production. Thieneman, super smart player, quick trigger downhill, really great in run defense. Jalen Husky just does it all. This is a really, really good safety class, and I think even past the 10, there are a lot of players in this draft class that are going to be very, very strong starters for years to come at the NFL level. And then you have the linebackers coming in second here. And I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but when it comes to being a linebacker and what being a linebacker means at the NFL level, I think Sonny Styles has a better skill set than Arvell Reese. I think that Reese is probably a player that, due to his overall strength and his speed and his processing ability and just his overall football IQ, he's probably going to wind up playing predominantly edge, or at least as a stand-up rush linebacker in an odd front. Yeah, he's an animal. But also, we have seen the downside of Arvell Reese over the past month or so. He's kind of been MIA in Matt Patricia's defensive scheme. So Sonny Styles is just a player that I think has continued to show day in and day out just how strong of a prospect he is. And 6'4", 243 pounds. He's a freak of nature. He has great coverage abilities as a former safety on this Ohio State Buckeyes team. CJ Allen, really, really strong player. I'm a little lower on him than the consensus. I think it's just because of he's such a great athlete, but he's not great in coverage. Really strong run defender, though, and a great tackler. Jacob Rodriguez can kind of do it all. If it was up to me, if I wouldn't get absolutely persecuted for it, I'd probably have Jacob Rodriguez as my number one guy. I think that the only reason I have him at 4 is I think he's very specific. I think he needs a scheme that's going to allow him free range from sideline to sideline. If you ask him to do a specific assignment, I don't really know if he's going to be as effective. But if you let him do his thing and blow sideline to sideline and just kind of make plays on free will and football processing, I think he's going to be a stud at the NFL level. Anthony Hill Jr. didn't particularly have a great year, but the intangibles are there to be a great NFL player. Jake Golday is just an absolute freak. 6'5", 240 pounds, incredible player. Kyle Lewis, on the opposite end of the spectrum with 6'1", 220 pounds, is an incredibly smart linebacker, really good in coverage as well. I think he only gave up like 8 catches the entire year. Tareen York, again, we're getting smaller as we go along. Tareen York, not a big linebacker by any stretch of the imagination, but a really great playmaker too. Probably going to be a coverage specialist at the NFL level due to his, 5'11", 220-pound frame. But they probably said the same thing about Gary Brackett, even though Gary Brackett was like 5'10", 250 pounds. And then Lander Barton is a player that's kind of coming off of a down year, but in the pre-draft process, I know he's going to the Senior Bowl this year. I do think that he's going to build his draft stock up again. And Caleb Elamzor, I don't know if you guys know about Caleb Elamzor, but great player. I mean, exceptional coverage linebacker, very low missed tackle rate, 7.6%, one of the tops in really the entire country from the linebacker position. He very quietly was an excellent addition to this TCU Horned Frogs defense, and I do think he has a very deserved spot here. If it's not as a coverage-specific linebacker, he's going to make a ton of plays on special teams as well. He's just a really, really great player overall, and I urge you, if you haven't seen or heard about him, kind of try and get into some highlights, get into some game film, because the guy's a really, really good player. And I think he really does have a future as a coverage linebacker in the NFL. And then finally, our last positional group here is going to be the edge rushers. I don't care if Ruben Bain Jr. truly had T-Rex arms. The guy is just so disruptive and unbelievable. You cannot tell me that he is not the best edge rusher in this class. David Bailey is exceptional as well. Cassius Howell, I think, is more of a pass rush specific player, but he's so dominant in that role on his day. Keldrick Falk is a little bit of the opposite. Really great run defender, sets the edge very well, and the sacks will come in time. TJ Parker's just very, very well rounded. Just a player that I think is probably going to be drafted in the back end of the first round or maybe early second, and just produce. He's going to be someone that, like a Yaya Diaby, probably, around that 8.5, 10 sack mark a season and just playing really, really solid football overall. R. Mason Thomas, again, more of a pass rush specific edge rusher, but really, really strong. Romello Height, even though it is his sixth year, and this is really his only year of elite production. You do see something there. You got some elite burst, elite bend, and elite speed off the edge, and that's something that really can't be replicated. Akeem Mesidor is a player that, I'll be honest with you guys, if he was 2 or 3 years younger, he'd probably be up in the top 3. Mesidor is an unbelievable player. Going to be 25 years old at the time of his rookie season, though, unfortunately, so that kind of brings him down a tick or two. But Mesidor is a player that is just, if Ruben Bain Jr., this reminds me of, I don't know if you guys remember from a few years ago when Aiden Hutchinson and I think it was David Ojabo were rushing off the edges for Michigan. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out for Ojabo. He tore his ACL and he was never really the same player again. But that's what this reminds me of, that these two players are just so unbelievably fantastic. And Mesidor is an insane run defender as well. Just an excellent season from these two guys in Miami. Gabe Yakas is a really nice player as well. Very quietly had, a dozen sacks this season. Really great production over the last 3 years. I think he has like 23 or 24 sacks over his last 3 years in college. Unbelievable player as well. And Derek Moore is a player that's going to be more pass rush oriented, but an insane season for him as well. 6'3", 260 pounds off the edge, a really great frame, really explosive, and has a great bag of pass rush moves. This class is really good. You're gonna see, I'll say, out of the top 50 picks, you'll probably find about eight edge rushers, probably. And there were so many more that I didn't get to talk about. Guys that should have made this list probably, but for other guys that'll make their top 10, they probably will. But don't think I forgot about those guys. There's easily, out of the top 100, I'd say maybe you'll find a dozen edge rushers or maybe even more in the top 100. It's a really, really solid class for edge rushers, and it's led by Ruben Bain Jr., David Bailey for me. Those guys are very, very good. Bailey is an exceptional player, was an exceptional player at Stanford, and was part of one of the best defensive lines in college football with Romello Height, David Bailey, Skylar Gill-Howard, and Lee Hunter. Really, really great rotation of defensive linemen there. Just, exceptional players, really. That's all I can say. And I think you got at least 5 guys that can go in the first round here. At least 5 guys that can go in the first round. It is an insane class. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are my top 10 in each positional group for the 2026 NFL Draft after the the majority of the college football season. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.